All right, good afternoon and good evening. I'm Brother Washington Muhammad, and this is the CSRN weekly podcast. It's our weekly video minutes. And if you notice, I have my Black Lives Matter and Justice or Else signs here because, man, it looks like I drew the short straw. I know that Jody's on assignment. Ruth has some engagement that she's attending to. And Julian and the others, I'm betting that they're going to come soon. But look, you got me today, and it's awesome that everybody's able to join us. Brother Washington Muhammad, I'm one of the co-founders of CSRN. I use the pronoun he and him, and this has been an awesome experience from 2014 to now, and all of the people that we met along the way. It started out as an idea with Mike Leonardi and Jabril Bay, and I was nowhere to be found, but they gave me a call and wanted to find out how can they make an event out of an idea that Jabril had, and Mike was assisting him with it, and they came up with this idea to have Community Day, Community Solidarity Day. And we did that. We followed up with a couple of other things. And then we agreed that every Tuesday at 6 o'clock, we would meet. So here we are. And today I have on my glasses from Optigo. And if you want to get some sharp glasses like these, you can find Kristen Moncrief. She drives the Optigo bus. Sometimes she's at Swain Field shopping center. Sometimes she's at some community events. You'll know her bus when you see it. Check her out. Let her know that I sent you. She may give you a discount just on my word alone. Hey, give it a try. What's the worst that can happen other than dealing and spending your money with Black business? And I have on my shirt, it says Salah. That's prayer in Arabic. It's an orange shirt. I've got on my watch today. Brown skin, I'm clean shaven, and I have no hair whatsoever. That's how I hide the gray. And as always, I'm dedicated to respecting and protecting all Black bodies, no matter the cost, no matter the gains or loss. And it's awesome to continue to be here with you. So if you're with us, put something in the chat. Maybe our tech team will give you a thumbs up. It's definitely not going to be me. My best to manage with what we have here. Without any further, what I want to do is read our mission statement, our guiding principles. We're going to take a short break. Then we're going to get right back into the meat of what we're going to be talking about. Some of it's political, some of it, some community-oriented things of beautiful people making positive things happen in the city right now. And there's some things that we like to see change. So let's start out with our mission statement. Let's see, let's make sure that we have everything together like we normally do. And this is our mission statement. We are the Community Solidarity Response Network of Toledo, formed on November 25th, 2014, the day after it was announced that the killer, a Ferguson, Missouri police officer of Michael Brown, an unarmed teenager, would not be indicted. We bring awareness to injustices experienced by Black men, women, and children who are disproportionately murdered, attacked, provoked, harassed by law enforcement. Police brutality has to end. We bring awareness to the fact that most often police brutality goes without consequence and accountability. Police impunity has to end. We utilize tactics of protest, civil disobedience, event disruption, citizen advocacy to give voice to those who are otherwise voiceless. We facilitate progressive community-based events that help to foster self-development, and we discuss resources to hold local leadership accountable for their sworn duties, be they politician, clergy, law enforcement, educators, etc. We want justice. equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, or color. For all lives to matter, Black lives must matter. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's a quote by our brother, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Once again, thank you for being with us. This is the CSRN weekly video minutes, our weekly podcast, where we talk about some of the things that we've done the past week, some of the things that we've got planned in the future, and some of the things that we got cooking right now. This is our solidarity pledge. And just as we read our mission statement, that gives us a defining idea of who we are and what we stand for and where we're going. That way, we're less likely to be co-opted. We're less likely to be have a lot of interference. Not that we haven't, but because we have a solid mission statement, it keeps us focused on Black lives, Black bodies, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And if we have some room later on to help others that are experiencing injustice, we're more than happy to help there too. This is our CSRN guiding principles. All Black lives matter. Queer Black lives, trans Black lives, formerly and presently incarcerated Black lives, poor working Black lives, differently abled Black lives, Black men and women lives, immigrant Black lives, Black elderly and children lives. All Black lives matter and are the creators of this space. We throw no one under the bus. We rise together. Ashe. Thriving instead of surviving. Our vision is based on the world we want, not the one we're currently in. We seek to transform, not simply react. We want our people to thrive, not just exist, think beyond the possible. Ashe. And Ashe means one who changes a thing or one who makes a thing happen. Experimentation and innovation must be built into our work. Embrace the best tools, practices, and tactics, and leave those behind that no longer serve us. Ashe. Evaluation and assessment must be built into our culture. Critical reflection must be a part of all of our work. We learn from our mistakes and our victories. Ashe. Principled struggle can't exist in a positive environment. We must be honest with one another by embracing direct, loving communication. Ashe. Love, self-love is practiced in every element of all we do. Love, self-love must be a driver of our work and an indicator of our success. Without this principle and without healing, we will harm each other and undermine our movement. Ashe. Self-care means we build resilient spaces by budgeting time, energy, and resources for healing. Self-care is a regular, consistent, intentional, and essential practice. Ashe. 360-degree vision. We honor past struggles and wisdom from elders. The work we do today builds the foundation of movements of tomorrow. We consider our mark on future generations. Ashe. The most directly affected people are experts at their own lives and should be in leadership at the center of our movement and telling their stories directly. Ashe. Training and leadership development should be fundamental. Our movement must constantly grow and leadership must constantly multiply. Ashe. And we crafted the guiding principles based on an event that myself, Jody, and a few of us went to in 2015, right before the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. That was the Justice or Else event in Washington, D.C. But in September, we went to an event called the Movement for Black Lives. And what that was, it was young people, most under the age of 40, most in their 20s. And what they showed myself and others that sometimes we as Black people are our own worst enemy. And that in order to move this movement forward, we need all hands on deck. It doesn't matter how you vote or who you love or how much money you have or how young you are. we need everybody in this fight because everybody has a skill set. So from 2014 to now, we utilize everyone. If you have a skill and you're willing to get right in the trenches, welcome aboard. So that's our guiding principles, and it helps us from imploding from the inside. Most times when organizations and grassroots organizations get started, there's conflict, there's controversy, there's personalities, and our guiding principles help us steer clear of the controversy of all of those things. So, hey, look, stay tuned. We're going to take a short break. We're coming right back. This is the CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast. Come right back.
Hey, I'm Dr. P. Not only am I a leadership coach, I'm a change agent, and I'm a race scholar. I've used my study of race to dismantle systems and organizations, but I also use that to help you as the individual become a better leader for your families and for your community.
All right, we're back. This is the CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast where we talk about some of the things that we've done last week, some of the things that we've got planning that we're doing right now, and some of the things that we've got planned for further along. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is kind of like the evolution of CSRN, and from my perspective, from being able to see it from an idea with Jabril and Mike, where they wanted this to go, and they're still with us. One is right down the street from where we film, and the other's in Italy. So they're always involved in what we're doing to make sure that we're steered correctly and stay on the right path. And we've been with that. One of the things that Jabril and Mike wanted was to organize outside of politics and religion, meaning that if it's Christian based, if it's Muslim based, then there's certain things that you do, there's certain things that you don't do, there's certain rituals, and sometimes that can include others, and it may feel to exclude others. It's not political based, meaning it's not just a group of Democrats that decided that they want to do something positive, then that would exclude most likely, but not in particularly, Republicans, independents, those who are part of the Green Party, and others. So they wanted to stay clear of both of those things, and I'm fine with that. I've been operating in a community in that sense for the last 30 years as a member of the Nation of Islam, and also working in prevention with youth, children, and their families, realizing the universal approach that we have to use, and we can't always bring our thing or whatever makes us different. We just can't necessarily bring that and make it all about that. So our initial protest was at Lucas County Courthouse in 2014, and people showed up. That was our first meeting right after the protest, and we were protesting Darren Wilson not being indicted for the murder of Michael Brown. And this was one of the first times that ordinary people decided that they're going to protest, and it wasn't religious based. I think right after that, we protested at Channel 13 because their parent station had did an interview with Darren Wilson and kind of humanized him, and then from there we showed up at the MLK celebration at Savage Hall, and a lot of people didn't want us to interrupt the celebration, but I've been involved with the MLK planning committee for some years, and I've seen year after year it gets weaker, and it will get wider it would get more about the police, more about the military, and less about Dr. King. So in 2015, we decided that we were going to interrupt it, meaning to interrupt the mayor, the chief of police, Marcy Captor, and we shut it down. From there, there's so many other things that we've been able to do. Black Lives Matter Day, which was a response to the Klan being allowed to come to downtown Toledo. We knew a lot of people were going to show up, and that was a trap to arrest and get so many black bodies into the court system. So we had an event at the Frederick Douglass Center. So shout out to Frederick Douglass for allowing us to have that event there. We sent a couple of vans downtown to pick up some of the people that thought they were protesting the Klan, when in reality, they were setting themselves up to be a part of law enforcement. So CSRN, if you're just viewing us now, our roots are deep in the community by some of the things that we've done to push back on the institution of white supremacy. So having said that, I want to bring in our lead administrative core, the lead of our administrative core, that's Ruth Leonard. So let's see if she's ready to be jumped in our podcast for today. All right, Ruth, what's going on? What's going on?
Hey there, Brother Washington.
All right. Look, it is a sad day when they leave me to all the knobs and the controls. So for whatever reason, I've gleaned a lot of things from you. And really, full disclosure, I knew nothing about StreamYard before I met Ruth. All right. I knew nothing about this. I knew nothing about nothing. So here we are.
Well, right? You're doing great, Brother Washington. I'm really proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, do not make me cry here. Not
you are a mess.
Not in front of my friends. Hey, listen, can you do you mind introducing yourself? Hey, what do you got on? And my process question for you, Ruth, what makes you keep coming back to the fight, you know, day after day after day?
All righty. So my name is Ruth Leonard. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a dark brown complected woman competing for the Mo Blacko Awards for summer 2021. I have my hair braided into a makeshift crown of 2 braids, and I'm just wearing a simple gray tank top right now. In regards to the process question, I think the thing that keeps me coming back is the knowledge that the fight is still continuing. We've seen, whether it's through local or national news, the fact that Black Lives Matter is still a processing statement for some, and for others, it is a rallying cry. And we want to make sure that any and everyone who needs more information can come to us, and we can put them into connections with the right people in order to make the changes in their community that they need. And so basically, I'm here as a facilitator for conversations. I'm here as a change agent in my community, and I am here as the administrative lead. So basically, all of the paperwork and processing of orders and events kind of comes through me.
All right, great. Hey, listen, and also I want to give a shout out to some of those who are in the chat. I want to give a big shout out to Charmaine Ivy, who's running for mayor, and she put in our chat, hey, look, I ain't been seeing you guys, you know, where you at? At one point, we're everywhere, and sometimes other people are there, so we're still there, Charmaine. Right. We're still boots on the ground. We look forward to seeing you soon, especially as they talk about how they're allocating for this $180 million plus dollars. And we're going to make sure that that remains where it's supposed to be.
Right.
Also want to give a shout out to Anika Fields. She had posted on Facebook if we needed, I don't know if it was sanitizer, gloves.
Yep, hand sanitizer.
All right. Hey, look, keep my sanitizer. I'm going to be in Swantucky tomorrow. And you know I got to ride through real fast because once they see me, they on to me.
Honey.
To send out some revolutionary greetings to Mike Hope. All right.
Yes, indeed.
Our brother, when we were working together not too long ago on qualified immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Mike at one point that qualified immunity is near the top of the food chain, because we're talking about defunding the police. We're talking
Right.
about refunding Toledo. So all of those things go hand in hand. And
Mm-hmm.
if you happen to get a chance to see Julian Mack on CNN
Woo!
speaking truth about CSRN, what we do, we don't back down. It doesn't matter if we're local, state, or national. I was proud of him. I can't say that every day, but I was proud of him because I couldn't have said those things better myself.
That's right.
And but for all, yes, CSRN is still here. We're at a lot of those meetings. It may be myself, it may be Jody, it may be Julian, but as summer moves forward, you may see more of a presence of us. So stay tuned. And for Charmaine, keep hitting them with all you've got for this mayoral race.
One thing that I want to add in regards to like the rest of the year, of course, we're doing things like our Kwanzaa celebration. Of course, we are still looking forward to the Blackout Black Friday, but also one of the things that has become near and dear to my heart in CSRN are the city council and the mayoral debates. So we are in the planning process for both of those. So Charmaine, I hope to see you when we host the mayoral debates, and to the eligible city council candidates, you should be looking forward to some information coming from CSRN in regards to invitations to a debate based on the district that you're representing. And I do believe, I'm not sure if this year it's districts or if it's the at-large, but we are including any and all candidates this year.
Mm-hmm. All right. I was running down some of the things that CSRN has done over the time, because, you know, sometimes when people meet us, they think, hey, you guys just started. No, we've been in this for a while. Right? And we're still here, coming back every week.
Yes,
you might see Julian here. You might see Jody everywhere. All right. But regarding advocating in city council chambers, they've just opened up city council chambers, and it's not just virtual anymore where they can mute us. So I'm glad that our sister Charmaine put that in the chat. And absolutely, we need to get more back to city council chambers, speaking truth to power at their headquarters. All right. And making sure our people see us speaking up for them. So once again, shout out for Charmaine. Look forward to seeing her in our city council as well as mayoral forums that are coming up. And if you've ever been to a CSRN forum, it's unlike anything that you've seen.
True.
It's all Black. The best questions. We put everyone on the hot seat. And at the end of the day, we want the people to make their best choice. All right. So I'm hoping to really see Charmaine this year at our, at the forum. I wanted to also talk about the need for voter registration. So now that we're in a political year, and this question is kind of to you, Ruth, because we've led some voter registration drives right outside of St. Martin de Porres. We've led voter registration drives all over the city. Why do you think it's so important to have our people register to vote and also be educated?
So one of the biggest factors in voting is the ability to use your voice to change your circumstances in your community by putting people in positions of power to make those changes. A lot of times decisions are made that are at the detriment of community members because it benefits a few wealthy bunch. And why we are such big advocates for voting is because it was held back from us for such a long time. There are generations of individuals who were not allowed to vote, and because of that, they were not allowed to use their voice to make their circumstances better or to hold people accountable. So when you look at things like redlining, when you look at things like gentrification, when you look at things like neighborhood blight, those can all be changed by putting people in those positions who can vote those dollars into those communities. It is so relevant, the importance of voting, and you can look at it simply in how they fight so hard to keep the vote from Black people. If it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting so hard to remove the ability to bring water to people who are waiting in line to vote. If it weren't so important, they wouldn't be looking to overturn votes that were submitted fairly and equally because their candidate didn't win. That's the biggest factor, I think, for CSRN and our voter registration, is making sure that individuals' voices are heard and making sure that they understand their power. There is a lot of power. There have been elections that have been won by just a few hundred or even a few dozen votes that make or break a candidate's ability to move forward in their political career. So CSRN is very mindful of the importance of voting. They're very mindful of what's happening on a national level. We're also very mindful of what's happening on a local level. Brother Washington, you brought up the fact that there is $180 million on the table right now.
Right.
If there are individuals in city council who represent either at large or a particular district, you should be working to make sure that they are getting as much money as they can for particular community centers, for particular community events, to ensure that the people who are most directly affected or who can be most directly affected by those dollars benefit the most from it. We live in a very strategic city, I think, for Toledo, where you have the higher ups who are able to kind of make and break or shake the table, if you will, for how different events go off without a hitch, or how different events can be shut down without a second thought. And to make sure that you have individuals who have the best interest of community members who are most directly affected in positions of power, that's where your vote comes in, and that's where your voice can manifest greatness for your community.
Now, one of the things that I've heard is, well, does my vote even matter? Or in some of the circles that I travel in a lot of circles, and that's one of the things that I get, often. Well, does my vote, even count? What would you say to some of those that have said, I don't know if you've heard that too sometime, does my vote count? Does the vote count, and why?
So the vote definitely counts. I think that there has been a campaign of sorts to create this idea that your vote doesn't matter, to create this idea that you can't make a difference in your community just as one person. But we've seen countless individuals use their individual ideas to create a change in their community. So if you believe that your vote doesn't count and you convince others that their vote doesn't count, that can be hundreds, if not thousands, of people who unwillingly follow your idea and therefore keep someone out of a position of power that could benefit you. Another thing in regards to the idea of votes not mattering or votes not counting in a way that can benefit you, when you look at things like school board levies, when you look at things like charter or public transportation, when you look at things that are voted on by smaller groups of individuals, you can see how putting that individual in that position of power can make or break the future of your community. So if you think that your vote doesn't count for something like a city council race, and a candidate wins who does not have your best interest at heart, and they win by a small margin, and they vote against your best interest, your vote could have changed the circumstances for your community. And that is the biggest factor of voting. of making sure that when you vote, it's not always about the president and the vice president. It's about city council. It's about precinct captains. It's about individuals who on their own can make changes that affect your daily life.
All right, now we, as you saw, we had Charmaine Ivy in our private chat. We also had earlier today, former Mayor Finkbeiner call and express interest in our podcast, but I think that he thought that it was public, but I said no, it's virtual, and I had to talk to his assistant to, hey, it's virtual. Don't show up. Don't show up, all right, because we're not really anywhere, so to show up. So we heard from Charmaine, we got a call from Cardi. Everybody seems like they're interested in running. Any thoughts of you? And look, everybody has really expressed interest in making a difference locally in Toledo. And if there was a few others that I'd like to ask, hey, look, do you ever think that there's going to be a time, again, knowing what you know now, all right, and I've managed political campaigns before, and it's a learning process. I've learned what to say. I've learned what not to say. And knowing what you know now, has that ever came across your mind now that we're talking about politics?
So I think in 2017, for those who may not be familiar, I ran for school board, and it was an incredible experience. I learned a lot about the democratic process of running for office. I learned a lot about the Democratic Party in general. I learned a lot about just politics and how they can work with or against you depending on what you say and who you say it to, which is no different than just general interactions, but the stakes are a bit higher when you deal with representing a larger amount of individuals. Now, in regards to myself running again, I do not see myself running another campaign. I think now I have put myself in a position to create opportunities for others to learn more about the process. So I am open to any and everyone who wants to learn about like some of the mistakes that I made, some of the successes that I had in running for office. However, I do not have the energy with the new school year coming up to focus on a campaign.
Them children can wait.
No, they cannot. My babies need me. But yeah, I think one of the things that I have learned just in having the opportunity to run for office is how many people don't know how politics work. How many people who don't know who represents them on a political level? How many people don't know how many working pieces make the city run? And so I've always been really aware of all of the individuals that create the political system for Toledo and Lucas County, to be more specific, and how they work. And so I am more interested in supporting candidates who believe in what I believe in, or who are able to buck the system without fear of repercussions. I'm more interested in teaching children the power of their voices as students, so that when it's time for them to vote, they recognize the importance. And so we have a new generation who's coming up who, number one, already know the power of protest, right? And so now to take it from the streets to the ballot box, and to take it from the ballot box to the boardroom, and to have all of these things coming together, whereas I'm more comfortable in the classroom right now. Now, that's not to say in 10 years you're going to see me running for mayor or state house or something like that. But as of today, I'm going to stay out of the riffraff.
All right. Well, that's spoken like a true educator. Hey, I'm getting a signal. They keep pointing at their watch. I didn't know people still wore those. Hey, look, we're going to take a short break. No, you're pointing at your skin. Come on, bro. All right.
Black Awards.
Right, don't do that. We're going to take a short break. And
Okay.
since we're talking about education, I want to talk about some of the teachings that we had regarding Nick, Dr. P, and Rashaya. How did that come about? And since we're talking about educating our youth, to talk about those teachings and how they influence education in the digital age.
All right, looking forward to it. See you in a second.
So stay tuned. This is the CSRN Video Minutes. We'll be right back.
Woo!
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
All right, we are back. Hey, look, if you don't see me, okay.
There we go.
All right, if you didn't see me, that means that, hey, look, something had changed. But listen, we're going to widescreen it. I came back with our brother, our spokesperson, Julian Mack, and we're gonna get right into our teachings. So while we got you here, if you could introduce yourself. You got on some new gear, all right, and hey, listen, what keeps you coming back to the fight?
My name is Julian Mack, preferred gender pronouns he, him. And what keeps me coming back is being part of a community, being actively engaged, and I just believe we should be active participants in our own survival. It's a non-judgmental space. We continue to be progressive and push the paradigm forward. And we continue to make history. You know, I think time has shown year after year, event after event, that we've been on the right side of history. When, there's always learning and growth that needs to happen. We continue to learn, we continue to grow, and we continue to challenge and change the system to work more effectively. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess we got turned down, Julian, today, but that's all right. Hey, okay. All right. No. I ain't going to mess it up. You shut up. All right.
No waka today.
Okay. But you just said it. Okay. All right. That's okay. All right. We'll talk in development. He's never at the development meetings. All right. But, oh, well. Well, listen. We're just getting back, so thank you for joining us. This is CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast, and we were talking to Ruth Leonard about who is the lead of our administrative core, how education makes a difference now, and she, meaning her idea of a teaching. I never saw that done before virtually, Where did that idea come up, and why Nick? Why Dr. P? Why Rashaya, who were all fired? All right, all of them. All right. So how did that idea come about, and why those three?
So I've been racking my brain to figure out how that idea came about. I know that it was a collaborative effort, but I can't pinpoint like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. But I know that it was around a time that we wanted to make sure that all of the work that we were doing was grounded in some form of education. So I believe it was at the beginning of our defunding the police campaign that we wanted to make sure that individuals had a full history of the police. We wanted to make sure that individuals who were going to try to counter our points were met with individuals who could counter them. And so that's where we decided that we wanted to call on an expert in the history of the police, who thankfully is a friend of ours and a friend of mine, who agreed to do that particular teaching. And through that conversation of wanting to do a history of police, we also realized that there had been rumblings at the time, because Trump was still in office. There had been rumblings at the time about critical race theory, but nothing had been like stated explicitly. And so we wanted to make sure that the individuals who were going to defend critical race theory on our behalf had a strong foundation of what critical race theory was. And ironically, I believe it was either that night or the next day, the Trump administration came out and said, we're banning critical race theory. And in true CSRN fashion, we rebroadcast the entire teaching. In regards to the and that was done by Dr. Patrice McClellan, who is a race scholar, who has done the work, who has met the people, who has done the research in order to have a full understanding and grasp of the reality of critical race theory, as opposed to what has been presented to individuals, which is an accurate depiction of history, to not be critical race theory. So we wanted to make sure that when those conversations were had, we had supporters of critical race theory with a strong understanding of what they were supporting. In regards to Nick Comives, who is who's currently on city council and who is in the midst of his candidacy for re-election, he had firsthand knowledge of the city of Toledo Police Department's their budget. And so we wanted to make sure that individuals who knew the ins and outs of the budget for the Toledo Police Department could give facts about what that budget was, how much was being allocated, how that money was being spent, so that when they were able to go out and have conversations with individuals who may not have watched the teach-in, they could have conversations based in fact. So those three teach-ins were created to ensure and to give a reaffirmation to individuals who were supportive of our work, who may have wanted to know more about our work, or who were simply interested in the counterpoint of what was taking up a lot of the media's attention in regards to critical race theory being in schools, in regards to the police being really, really nice, in regards to the police budget not taking up that much of the city's money. We wanted to make sure that that we were able to create an educated population of activists. Bling.
All right, now speaking of activists, we just had one of our activist stars call in from Colorado.
Okay.
Correction institution, which I really don't believe they're doing any correcting whatsoever other than warehousing. We have our brother Omar Gent. Brother, how you feeling today?
I'm very blessed, brother. How's everybody doing out there?
All right, we're doing fine, and it's great having you. And listen, as always, brother Omar, we were talking about education. We were talking about critical race theory, and some of the soldiers, some of the academic soldiers that we have in Toledo, that's not giving them a break whatsoever. Hey, listen, Brother Omar, could you introduce yourself to our audience? And really, I think the call of today was what keeps you coming back? We asked Julian that question. We asked our lead administrative core that question. So could you introduce yourself, brother, and why do you keep coming back?
My name's Omar Jeremy Kidd. I was born May 6, 1984. Born in Beach, Florida. I'm a native of Florida. Fortunately, I've been caught up in this system. I'm lawfully incarcerated, wrongfully incarcerated, for 13 years now. And as my website, freeourbrothers.com, lays it out, it shows the illegal mass incarceration in Colorado, what they're doing to warehouse people, like the brother was saying, unlawfully in this field, these prisons up. What keeps me coming back, first and foremost, is the strength of the Creator. God is great in giving me a purpose. So once I stay centered in Him, and focus on Him, He empowers me and rejuvenates me, and He brings people on my path like this beautiful platform. Everybody is reaching and praying and fighting for me. And I know this. Look at the strength of me being a black man, of my beautiful, wonderful black women that often don't have the support, and they still stand and fight, and they just push, and they go against the grain for so many of us, especially us brothers locked behind these walls. So I can't let anybody that's fighting, especially not our wonderful sisters, just basically fight by themselves. I have to be a man. I have to fight. I have to tell the truth.
All right. So, thank you, brother. Our question also was, how do you stay balanced? The way you're speaking to us, no one would know that you were incarcerated. No one would know that you're locked up. No one would know that you're a confined citizen. What is it that keeps you balanced, stable, and hopeful?
It's the fact that, first and foremost, God He's everything for me, and I have to tune into Him each and every day. I have to stay focused on Him, and then I just look at what my great ancestors have been through, just their struggles, the heroines and the heroes, people like, Harriet Tubman, just Ida B. Wells, and, everybody just said, it stops with me. I mean, they decided to rise up and fight the white supremacist system, even if it was the cost of their lives. So, and I also stay balanced when I know sometimes I have to just not sometimes, but making sure I self-care, and just maybe take a step back, and just rest, and rejuvenate, reflect, just making sure that I'm first and foremost taking care of me, because a lot of people come to me with their problems and issues and want advice. So when I feel myself feeling like I'm on a dream, I have to make sure that I plug into the Creator, think about the legacy of the ancestors, self-care as well.
All right. And when we talk about self-care, myself and Julian and others, we have a segment in our podcast sometimes where we talk about health and wellness. And Julian, you had a question for Brother Omar?
Yes, revolutionary greetings, Brother Omar.
How you doing, brother?
All right. I have a question about some current news that's happening in regards to exploitation, the prison industrial complex, and the alleged labor shortage and worker shortage that's happening. So about a week ago, in a Kansas facility, there's this idea that there's a worker shortage since we're coming out of this pandemic, and some large major corporations are making the move to replace the current workforce with prison labor. Most notably, this happened in Kansas with the Russell Stover company, that makes the chocolates. And they used a Topeka Correctional Facility used 150 work release inmates to replace the labor that was working in that facility. So my question is could you expound upon your view from inside the belly of the beast of prison labor? Do you feel that can be exploitive? And what are the solutions to the issues that we're dealing with prison labor and with this, I have to say, alleged worker shortage?
Good question.
Well, it's a very good question. You know, with the worker shortage thing, I think that from state to state, you know, it varies, and also I think it's a common thread as far as is when you have an abusive institution and it's rooted in brutality and slavery and it's abusing people. If you keep doing that, you know, the prisoners who see basically the lowest on the earth, the rest of the earth, and it's going to ultimately, you know, spill over to your employees. You know, it's only a matter of time. You know, so maybe a lot of the guards are maybe walking away. For example, the guards in this state don't even have a union, from what I was told. And I'm hearing rumors that they're being forced to work overtime without pay. So I think it stems into this whole mentality of just enslavement, brutality, and prisons have so much power. My brothers and sisters, it's like I summarize it, it's like a little nation within a locale, a state or a city or town is a nation, because these people that run these prisons, they have so much power. They do things in here that, you know, people not aware about or maybe not even care about. So in order to reverse that tide, I think it has to be like, you know, with the brothers, revolutionary brothers, George Jackson, them, where they were turning the prisons to universities, letting brothers and sisters know about their power, as far as a prisoner, you know, you may be behind bars, but educate yourself, know where all this comes from, that basically it's about. When they got rid of, chattel slavery, the first thing they did was build the prisons, another form of exploiting our people to keep this forced labor going, you know, and what really has to be done is those of us who have the knowledge, the wisdom, authority, and power, we have to reach out to brothers and sisters behind these walls, and trying to educate themselves and other people, because with education comes change, you know. So education is first and foremost. People have to know their power, because so many brothers and sisters behind these walls, they feel they can't make a change. They feel that because they're in prison, or because they have this label as a failure or just a drug addict or whatever it may be, they can't do anything. But we can fight back if you realize your value and stand up and say, we're not going to be used by the machine.
All right, now.
I have a follow up with that. So the reason I would say that these practices are exploitive is typical workers at say that Russell Stover plant would make $14 an hour. Out here, what we're dealing with is there's because there's more jobs available, the living wage is increasing, and people are demanding more money for the jobs that they work, and they're demanding a living wage. But now, in this particular example, the incarcerated brothers and sisters were working 77 hours and getting paid $5.89 an hour. Now, I've grown to understand that work release programs are one of those quote unquote reforms that we're supposed to be in favor of, but then I also see how they're exploiting people and exploiting the labor force. What can be done to create, you know, some kind of protections for incarcerated brothers and sisters and those in the labor force that are looking to get paid what they owe and what they deserve?
Very powerful question, my brother. I think brothers and sisters need to be encouraged, to those who want to really change things, to maybe this conglomerate of prisoners, and combining with activists on the outside to see what can be done. Because, like I was saying, so many things are done behind these walls and nobody will even know about it because, it's just everything is hidden. And then it's like these institutions, they run off exploitation and white supremacy. We all know these things. But by the time a lot of these things hit the surface, this stuff has been going on for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you fighting against, a hydra, you fighting against this huge monster where if you would have known from day one in the organized that there was a union, maybe it's only maybe like 10 prisoners, but with that 10 prisoners joining with brothers and sisters on the outside, we can hit them like 20,000 people, you know what I'm saying? Because we have to be visible to the invisible, because these people think they're invincible. They think they have all power. They think they're God. So, the brothers and sisters that's organizing, we need your support. Maybe people need to be encouraged to speak out more that's behind those walls about the issues. And when people out there, when y'all reach into us and y'all pour into us, that empowers us to become stronger and stronger. It lifts us up and it helps us to form what we need to form,
All right, now we've got a few minutes left to our podcast. I wanted to ask you about your Instagram page. I've been, I send people to freeourbrothers.com, but everyone has to know about your Instagram page. How can they follow you on Instagram? And isn't there a video that's trending, that's playing right now on your Instagram? If so, what is it and what can people expect?
Yes, Instagram at Free Our Brothers. And basically what I'm trying to do is generate pressure. I'm asking everybody to please follow the page and answer the call to action. The video is basically a dress.name video directed at several people attached in the tag to the video. But first and foremost, it's calling out, for example, Leslie Herrick from the Black Caucus, the local Black Caucus in Colorado, asking her to respond to the video, the key members. And I'm asking everybody if they can please support that by forwarding the video to the contacts. And also maybe if you can leave a voice message at this number, Leslie Herrick. He's part of the Colorado Black Caucus. He's actually the head of the Colorado Black Caucus. Her phone number is 303-866-2959. Please ask her to answer the call to action posted in my video. And it's basically asking her to call for a federal investigation to the behalf of this situation, which is all explained in the video. So I need your help, brothers and sisters. Without the support of you all, this thing can't move forward because they want to cover this up and silence me and break my spirit. But through the grace of God, they haven't been able to do that.
All right, listen, brother. We're going to talk soon because we're going to need to download that video and upload it to our page so that we can maybe have that in heavy rotation for CSRN. Before you roll out, any final thoughts on that you like to share with some of the people that may be viewing this podcast, brother?
I think Brother Julian for his questions. It's a good exchange of energy, very on point. It gives me more to think about, more to sharpen up on. Thank you all for this platform. You asked me earlier when I called you, what can people do just to keep going? And I just feel like first and foremost, like we talked about some podcasts ago, that we have to be rooted in the truth. We have to know what truth is, what we're standing on, my brothers and sisters. So once you know the truth, you can go from there. And just know that I see it as being in here and fighting this fight for so long. The powers of injustice expect us to wear down, to give up, and they deliberately stall, delay, because they know so many people, they have a short attention span or may not be totally wholeheartedly dedicated. So they wait, they stall, they put obstacles in the way. So we need to be committed. We need to realize it's lives on the line. People need your help. They need you in the middle of your problems. Please reconnect to the Creator. Self-care. You know that you're loved. And when you reach out to somebody that's behind these walls, it's nothing small. It's very major. It's very empowering. I know that myself. So I love you all. Thank you for everything. And shields up.
Shields up and
Shields up,
revolutionary
brother.
greetings. Talk to you soon, brother.
Revolutionary. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Hey, that's our brother Omar Gent, and he is really he gives me hope.
Yeah.
He energizes me, and he's behind prison walls.
Yeah.
So I don't have an excuse for not stepping up,
Right.
speaking out, and showing up. So we're going to do a hard segue back to root, because we're talking about the teaching and that whole idea that I've never seen that before. How does that even happen? So we've got Nick, we've got Dr. P. Root, and we got Rashaya. Why those three? There's no better three, not unless they could have cloned me. All right. Okay, we'd have to clone a lot more of me. All right.
The variant of
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah. My wife was saying, who the hell are you? I'm like, yeah, Rosemary showed up that day. But okay, all right, back to serious. Why those three? And why do you think it was so successful having the CSRN teach-ins?
So those three were chosen because they were experts. I think a lot of times you can have a great idea, but if you don't have the legwork that goes to building years and years and years of knowledge, of trial and error, of having your own thoughts and suggestions countered with other thoughts and suggestions, growing from it, growing through it, and being able to adapt to changing times, and being able to still be consistent with the accuracy of your thinking and your thought processes, then you are not a suitable expert. And one of the things that I loved about those three is that they are all experts in those particular fields. I believe Nick Comives had been on city council for about 3.5 years at the time of the teach-in, but he had also been on the committee, I believe, to know the ins and outs. He had been able to get the research not only from what was submitted to the city council to be voted on, but also the raw data. So he was able to combine all of that to give a fully cohesive explanation of what the TPD budget was. Dr. P is a race scholar. She is a leadership coach. She has done the work, and her expertise in critical race theory has made it so that she is the perfect person. And she's local. She's locally known, but she's like nationally recognized for the work that she's done, not only in critical race theory, but in leadership. And so to be able to have a friendship with someone who not only knows the concepts of critical race theory, but also knows the individuals who created it and is able to concisely put them all together, that makes her the perfect person to present on critical race theory. Finally, Rashaya G, she is one of the greatest lawyers that I know. I mean, her practice has been, as far as I can tell, amazing. And through the practice, she is able to go into her own work in law, but it has always remained grounded in race. And because of that, she has the understanding of the laws that have been created over time to create situations in which Black people are targeted, in which the police have been created to target Black people. And therefore, if you take all of the years of knowledge that she has been able to accrue throughout her career and just throughout her living and her time in the courtrooms, then she is definitely the expert that we wanted to have, and who is thankfully a friend to CSRN who was willing to participate in that teaching.
Well, I think we've got Anika Fields in our chat, and she had called us, I think last week, not only giving away sanitizer and PPE materials, which I appreciate her for doing that. She also talked about a possible teach-in with Reem soon. So I don't mean to be name dropping, but I like Reem.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I like Reem. And if we ever wanted to dive back into that again, if you had to assemble another terrific three, to consider Reem, All right. For
Well, actually, Reem was a part of when we partnered with Able. We did a Know Your Rights teaching. So this was at the height of all of the protests that were going on throughout the city. This was right, I believe, on the heels of May 30th, where we wanted to make sure that individuals who were going out to protest knew what they could legally do and what would encourage the police response. And so we have done a teaching, or not necessarily a teaching, but we have done a Know Your Rights event with Able. And so if Reem is willing and able to do another teaching, I am 100% on board.
all right. So I know you probably watching this because, like me, I don't have anything else to do. So man, that'll be awesome. And listen, we talked about Julian earlier. All right, we talked about CNN, and it still boggles my mind that we had someone local that went all the way to Cincinnati and came back. And I don't know if anyone's contacted you yet to just see, man, to celebrate that. So, and speaking of Julian, let's play our self-care commercial. And then we're going to come back. This is the CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast. We'll be right back.
Did you know addiction is a disease, not a moral dilemma? The opioid epidemic and substance use have a major impact on communities of color and many people's lives. Wasion Wellness Recovery Support Center offers culturally relevant, inpatient and outpatient behavioral health treatment and recovery support services to any Ohioan struggling with addiction, mental health, or finding sober, safe housing. We must recognize that treatment is available and accessible to all. If you are in need of treatment or want to find out more information, you can call 1-888-728-2713 to talk to someone or schedule an appointment.
All right, we are back. This is the CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast. Earlier, we were talking about the 180 million. We were talking about how you represented CSRN to the fullest. And we really wanted to hear from you what was going through your mind at that time, knowing that you were on a national or really an international scale, and everything that you were going to say was going to get picked apart. And then you're going to have to come back here to us. Yeah. All right. What was going through your mind, and what were some of the questions being asked?
Well, when I watched the town hall, I initially became, we talk about self-care and we talk about like medical conditions and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it's no secret that I've had my share of mental health issues. When Don Lemon brought up the issue of the police, and I heard Joe Biden pivot to essentially there's nobody nicer to police than me, I immediately anxiety started to build with me. At that point in time, I knew that the producer from the Don Lemon Show had reached out to me the day before that town hall. And so I was watching it. And so at that point in time, I knew that I was going to have to criticize on national or international television the most powerful man in the world. And knowing how television works and knowing how 24-hour news networks go, I was quite sure that they would air the negative things that I had to say about President Biden as opposed to some of the positives. And so I am not new to public speaking or to doing TV interviews or even I've had a handful of national interviews, but knowing that the next day I would be saying something to, essentially to the most powerful person in the world and criticizing him. There was a deep sense of anxiety that I had. That's just honest. But I had to say what I had to say.
Right.
You know what I mean? We had to. We don't just talk about these things. It's not just. Here's something that I really took away from the focus group. A lot of times we get in these siphoned off political circles, and sometimes we don't have conversations, or we go a long time having conversations with people that don't think like we think. And there is a refreshing feeling, right, that Joe Biden has brought to, let's just say, middle America, where we can talk politics and it not end up in fisticuffs. But what I was reminded of is that the political stances that we take are not solely based off just ideology or political posturing. They're based upon our livelihood and how do we live and exist. They're not theoretical, right? Like, and I, for one, thought it was very refreshing to have a relatively civil because I didn't clap back like I really wanted to.
Right.
But to have a relatively civil conversation and dialogue. But, there was a man on the panel, and we often, over a period of an hour, what they didn't show is we often were going back and forth. And he mentioned things like the national debt, right? And now, to me, that's something that is a theoretical, political stance. Okay, but now putting money in folks' hands that need it, eliminating poverty, is something that I'm much more passionate about and is much more real because I know people who are starving.
Right.
I know people who are homeless. Right. When like the whole issue of defunding the police came up, people are scared to say that on national television. But here's the deal, right? The best way to create safer communities, and this is what I really wanted to say that I forgot in the moment due to nerves, is look, anybody who's moved from the hood to the suburbs knows that people having more money and people that aren't in the desperate condition of poverty create safer communities. Like, this is not an abstract concept.
Right.
Right. When people aren't starving, folks tend to be safer. This isn't abstract, right? And that's something that directly affects folks' everyday life. When folks live a life where it's worthwhile enough where they feel like, if something happens to me, I'm losing something, as opposed to my life is so terrible, I ain't got nothing to lose anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
It's different.
That's
right?
A good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
It's different, and there are so many folks that they have these political stances that are theoretical, based upon an ideology that isn't affecting their day-to-day life.
Right, and I want to add to that because it's true. And I think that the person that you were talking about was the Republican guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because when I'm watching the clip, I can see how he's listening to you to respond rather than just listening to you. And the things that Republicans are taught, the things that some Democrats are taught, they're taught the same theoretical stuff. And if you want, for everybody, pro tip of the day, if you want to know how to speak and not say anything, watch a Sunday morning news show. All right. If you want to know the skill of being able to speak and not say anything, watch those shows, and it will show you that those who are in higher level politics, they do this.
And Brother Washington, I grew up watching those shows. I grew up paying a lot of attention to politics and learning how to respond like that. And I think that's why sometimes you all give me the honor to be the spokesman, because I understand that path. But the reason, you asked earlier, like, what makes it so you keep coming back?
Right.
Life happened. And there was a divergent path between what I saw as politics as usual within the Democratic establishment and the issues that were affecting my everyday life, that the issues that could in all actuality take my life. Right. And so when I talk about I'm here because I think I should be an active participant in my own survival, that sounds cute, but that's real. If I don't do these things, I could die.
Right.
And it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. And that's something that there's an authenticity that arose from this movement that still continues to be real and resonate today. That is an authenticity that is beyond traditional politics.
Right.
And I think that's the thirst that people are looking for in leadership, in elected officials, and just people that can make change. They're looking for authenticity. They're looking for someone to speak to the experiences that happen in their everyday life.
Right.
And there's a disconnect that exists.
And I think that the disconnect is on purpose. Those of us who engage in Democrat Party nothingness, we know, when I'm saying we, because I'm part of the older people, I don't get involved in it, but I know it exists. We know what we're doing. All right. And sometimes it's frustrating to see politicians talk that nothingness when they know their constituents are going through hell. All right. And that's purposeful. They do it hoping that you'll lose hope and join them in their nothingness. The same way the Republican rhetoric they'll talk about the national debt, but at the same time, we're over here dying.
We're here starving.
We're over here
poverty,
starving
from a lack of money and a lack of resources.
But that model works because that model gets you campaign contributions to continue to say nothing. That's why you hardly see the corporations, Sunday morning talk shows. Watch the sponsors. If it's IBM, if it's Hewlett Packard, if it's Exxon Mobil, if it's Chevron, all right? Watch the commercials and then watch how hard those companies are criticized in the mainstream. So it's beneficial for career do-nothing politicians to adopt that type of language where you can speak for 20 minutes and not say anything and make people applaud it. All right, that's when you perfected your skill. They say that a trick is techniques half learned, techniques are tricks well mastered. So they well mastered this trick of saying nothing, all right, and having people respond so much so that we vote for them.
Right. And there was actually a couple statistics that were cut out of that interview that I quoted that I would actually like to bring up if the data in the phone allows me to. Is that all right? So as far as Biden and policing, Biden was actually correct with what he said. Right, he is more endearing to the police than Donald Trump.
Okay.
Right, and this is a political posturing
He
that is
wrote the
very
bill.
problematic for where we are
Right.
in the moment.
He wrote the bill. No one is.
And as we were,
Right.
having
wins.
conversations with other Black people last fall, this was a concern that came up over and over again about the author of the crime bill being in presidency.
Okay.
So the raw numbers, about 150. Now, let me just add this caveat. Most police departments are funded by municipal budgets. However, most police departments also get grants and grant funding from the federal government and from the Department of Justice, right? And so essentially, defunding or funding police departments is a local issue. However, there is a connection to it on a federal level because that's where some of that money comes from. So as far as Biden, well, this year versus last year, there was about 157 million in grant funding for police hiring by Donald Trump. That's more than double. Biden has requested 388 million. 157. Biden's requested 388 million to hire more police officers this year. Another thing I want to bring up, 2 out of 3. The flow of military gear that police get from the federal government. There was over 20. Well, yeah, there was in the fourth quarter of 2020, there was 13 million. This first quarter of 2021, this has gone up to 34 million. So 13 million in the fourth quarter of 2020. This has gone up to 34 million in the first quarter of 2021. Again, that is military gear passed down from, the military, the United States military, to our police departments. This is happening in real time right in front of us, and the president's admitting to it, and we're not noticing exactly what's going on. And then last but certainly not least, we talk about our military industrial complex, right? We talk about how we spend more money on our military than like the next 10 militaries combined. China, Russia,
yes,
major militaries, right? We dwarf them. If we just looked at what we spend domestically on policing, we spend more money domestically on policing. We already know we do more on military, but domestically on policing, we spend more money than India, Russia, Saudi Arabia, France, Germany, United Kingdom, Japan, and South Korea all spend on their military.
Combined.
Not combined, but more than each of those places. So, like, we spend more domestically on policing than Russia spends on their entire military. Then Saudi Arabia spends on their entire, then India, then France. France is not like a low, like a non, like France has been involved in every world war. France has been involved in imperialism. France is a long-standing global superpower and has been for quite a long time. We spend more money domestically on policing. This is completely separate from the military than France does on their entire military, right? So when we talk about defunding, and that, of course, they cut that out. I said that, but they cut that out the interview. When we talk about defunding, so it's much more important to me when we talk about a public safety model. I think about how many kids we could feed. I think about how we could eliminate homelessness, how we can eliminate healthcare bills, right? How we can eliminate all of the things that cause the desperate condition of poverty, cause someone to risk their life to take one's life. Nobody wants to live like that, but we have the money to eliminate those conditions, but we don't. And when we talk about defunding, that's what we mean.
All right. Well, tell us how you really feel. Now, I've got Ruth back because I think last year when we were talking about defunding the police, not eliminating the police, and I've never seen anyone say that more firefighters will prevent more fires from happening.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So it's silly when people equate or conflate, as Rashai would say, hiring more police to preventing crime.
Right.
All right. Okay. So miss me with that.
Yeah.
Now Ruth in us, but I say Ruth because most times it's her going in first. All right. We talked about Refund Toledo, and how do you see children benefiting from those resources going back into our communities? You as an educator, how do you see us reinvesting in our own communities, benefiting the children?
So, as I'm sure Julian has stated, the communities with the most resources are the safest. And so, if we take the money that is used to keep police officers on our streets and we reallocate those funds to things like community centers, we reallocate them to making sure that places like the Frederick Douglass Center can have basketball courts in the winter, if we reallocate them so that programs such as socio emotional learning can have a bigger impact on community members, if we reallocate them so that we can create more jobs, so that it's not a fight for 4 jobs that make $15 an hour. If we reallocate our funds so that we can have opportunities for children to have safe spaces where they can go after school or before school or on the weekends, if we can reallocate those funds so that our children have places to go that are not heavily policed, but are heavily invested in the emotional, in the economic growth, in the emotional growth, in the just general ability for children to have safe spaces to identify who they want to be and try on different personalities without the police being there to tell them that they're wrong. That's how we make the communities better. That's how we keep children safer, by creating a system in which children are allowed to say how they are feeling without scrutiny, where children are allowed to experience all of their emotions without the police showing up, where children are allowed to grow and develop in healthy and free ways. That's how we create a better situation. Instead, we are living in a society in which any iteration of personality outside of the norm is criminalized. Anytime you have a child who says no, it's automatically they're seen as a threat, especially if they are Black. Anytime you have children who want to be something outside of what is considered appropriate, whether that's their gender identity, whether that's their personality traits, whether that's just how they choose to express themselves. It's constantly policed. And so to give children a space and to financially support that space, to create opportunities for children to have some place to go when their parents are at work, where they're not just by themselves, where they can learn and grow and develop new talents and encourage one another and to learn from one another. That's what's needed when we talk about reallocating that budget, creating those spaces where children can grow and identify who they want to become in a space that doesn't criminalize that.
Oh, that's beautiful. We're gonna take a short break.
Add one quote to that. We're in a difficult position right now because we processed it really about as hard as we could last summer. And there were powerful people in leadership positions that still don't get it. President and all 3 mayoral candidates. So I'm just going to say, in the words of John F. Kennedy, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable.
Okay.
Off to the break.
All right.
Yo, that was said by American president.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm all for it. Whatever it takes for us to change. They pushed us there. Whatever we have to do to change, they pushed us there. So expect us. And well, you messed up my segue. So but that's all right. You've done it before. Hey, I was going to say regarding Ruth talking about the safe spaces, I wanted to give a shout out to comedian Keith Cook, that have pretty much made a safe space for a lot of people for the Bike Rides Matter. So we're going to show a short commercial from Keith Cook. If you want to show up every Saturday, 8:30, Uptown Green, Bike Rides Matter.
If you can ride a bike without falling, then you're good to go. Bike Rides Matter. It's a community bike group. We get together for fun, fitness, and fellowship. We ride weekly. Right now, we got a Tuesday ride where we ride on the UT Trail. We do Saturday right here at Uptown Green. That's our glow roll Saturday night. It was something I was already doing with my daughter, just riding bikes, and we just decided it would be cool to add the community because we were just finding ways to make fun given the situation. Being that everything was closed down and options were limited, bike riding is one of those things you can do without any restrictions.
You get to make new friends and just like interact with people, especially during COVID. You still like have your mask on and stuff, but it's still good to like see people.
It's a cool way to stay fit. We talk while we riding, we got music while we riding. I've met quite a few new friends and new people. I made some real cool connections throughout the city. Take advantage of the time you have. Take advantage of this pandemic. I know it's a lot of restrictions, but you can be creative and find new ways to have fun, one of which is this right here.
All right, and a big shout out to Keith Cook. Maybe 4 months ago, you would not find me anywhere near a bicycle. All right, I've got one in, and I get it in. So thank you, Keith, for creating a safe space that people can come. It's not political. It's positive. No one's required to be there. If you go, you go. If you don't, hey, it's all good. And listen, we're back. CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast. This is where we're tying up some loose ends. Then we're going to bring in our 5 minutes of heat with Julian. Well, okay. Hell, all right. I stopped being surprised.
Really quickly.
Yeah,
I just want to take a moment before we wrap it up with 5 minutes of heat to shout out Black women in the Olympics. Okay, so this year we have seen an emphasis on mental health like we have never seen before. So I want to take a moment to shout out Sha'Carri Richardson, who was unable to compete in the Olympics due to THC being in her system. And yet at the same time, there's a Forbes article that is all about CBD being the new hotness at the Olympics this year. They come from the same plant. One makes you chill out. The other one
make you chill out.
Make you chill out, right? And so the fact that Sha'Carri Richardson was targeted, the fact that on the worst day of her life, she chose to do what she knew in order to help herself be less stressed out, and the fact that she still beat everybody, okay, with a drug that makes you chill out. Like, let's just acknowledge that first things first. But the fact that she has been taken under the wing of the entire athletic community. I'm really proud of just her ability to continue to work in order to make sure that she has what she needs, and the community as a whole just wrapping their arms around her to show their love and support for her. Second, Naomi Osaka. I watched a part of her documentary that's on Netflix. If you have a chance to check it out, check it out. It gives you a lot of insight into just what she is going through. She is a young woman who basically mastered the game of tennis in order to keep her mother from having to sleep in her car to provide for herself and her sister. And the fact that she was able to put her mental health first, the fact that she was able to take a break and say, you know what, I am not going to participate in in iterations of this sport, whether it's the French Open or Wimbledon, if you cannot respect the fact that I need my own space after I compete at the highest level, in order to not be targeted by negativity and microaggressions and blatant aggressions and racism. So her putting her self-care first is also something that needs to be celebrated. The last one, Simone Biles. Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast I have ever seen. And I'm talking about someone who got to witness Dominique Dawes at the Atlanta Olympics. Like, she is a phenomenal athlete. And the fact that she was penalized for being able to do gymnastic movements that no other human being can do, and she was penalized for that because it was unfair to people who could not keep up with her. And the fact that she chose again to put her self-care first. There is absolutely nothing that anything outside of your own physical self can give you that will make it so that you will be okay. If you are not okay, nothing else will matter. So being at the top of your game, if you are not listening to your body, as my mother says, don't let your body have a fool for a boss. That is from J. California Cooper. I am proud and I stand behind each and every one of those Black women who have made it a point to say, I'm going to put myself first. I am not going to allow a sport, a hobby, a career, a game, anything keep me from being my best self. So I just wanted to make sure that it's on record that CSRN and the Black community as a whole, in my opinion, stands behind these Black women who are choosing to not deal with negativity and racism in the hopes of gaining a check, because we know that they are the best. Simone Biles is the best. Sha'Carri Richardson is proven to be the best, at least on a national stage. And Naomi Osaka has proven that she is the best. And therefore, they've already won the Olympics, in my opinion. And whatever they choose to do next, I support.
All right. Before we pass it to Julian, because he's going to wrap up, and then bring in 5 minutes of heat. Hoodstock, August 8th. CSRN is a proud sponsor of Hoodstock. There you go, right there. Child of the system. Help us sponsor that. And also big shout out to O'Shea Jones, who boxes out of Soul City Gym. She's in the Olympics.
Yes, one today.
Just one, welterweight, Soul City Gym, Mud Made, Glass City, so our women are phenomenal. Black women are phenomenal. Wherever you find us, in the boardroom or the boxing ring, all right? We're phenomenal. So, and also we have our phenomenal woman in our lead administrative core, Russo. Man, we winning, all right?
That's right.
We winning all around, all right? We winning all around, all right? Okay, that's too much. There you go. Now, she's going to kill me for doing that, all right? All right. But,
better you than me.
Yeah. Hey, you. Okay, all right. All right. Look. Tying up to loose ends, 5 minutes of heat. What do you got?
So, of course, the mayoral race is coming up. The Black community is being devastated by gun violence, right? There are a lot of people who are proposing all types of solutions. I particularly take issue with all three mayoral candidates. There's problematic aspects to all three of their approaches, right? There's some things that are good, some things that are very problematic about all three of their approaches. I did want to give a shout out to Dr. Michelle Grimm, who is a new city council candidate that had I think a really thoughtful, progressive 10-point plan to try to reduce gun violence. And so you can go to Dr. Michelle Grimm on Facebook and look at that. All right. Look at those 10 things.
but none of them included pulling over more black and brown people, right? None of them included adding more money to the police budget. None of them included these traditional things that we hear, frankly, all of the three mayoral candidates saying.
I know.
And so I think it's important that, look, it's a large field of 20 different people, and some of them could be very problematic to the black community. So from time to time in the CSRN meetings leading up to it, I like to point out the policies that are being proposed that I think that are helpful, and I did see that. I did notice it. I think a lot of people didn't, but I think it's worth taking some time to just point out.
Okay.
So shout out to you, Dr. Michelle Grimm.
All right. Well, Ruth had talked earlier. We talked with Shemaine Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the chat. She's running for mayor. We talked earlier.
Is she running for mayor?
She's running for mayor.
Awesome.
Shemaine Ivy. We talked earlier to Carter Finkbeiner about his interest in being a part of not only the podcast but some of our thinking. So we talked about the probability of having a mayoral forum.
Oh yeah,
where they can come themselves and talk about their plan.
Yeah.
So that the people can decide what's best. So be looking for that CSRN mayoral and candidates forum. It's happening. It's happening. So,
right.
All right. Just wanted to shout that out.
Good. Thank you, Brother
All right.
Washington. Thank you, Brother Washington. So about a week ago, I think the richest man in the world went to space. And this is the second time in as many months that this happened.
With a billionaire.
All right. I'm of the belief, this is me personally, there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire. That at some point, somebody's getting exploited. Somebody's getting exploited.
All right.
In a society where we talk about, there's still homelessness, there's still people starving, right? There's scarcity is real. There's people using these resources for hobbies, resources that can be transformative for our communities. How about we get reparations before you go to the moon? How about we?
It reminds me of that meme of the guy picking play 2 minutes in space or cure world hunger, and he's got the little, hey, you can't decide which one he wants to do. All right.
So there's a poem by the great Gil Scott-Heron. Is the same poet that I wrote the Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
Right.
That as society and man tries to conquer all these places, I think it's important that we remember to take care of ourselves and the people that we have here on Earth. And so I think that this poem did a good job of underlining that, and I would love to share it for the 5 minutes of heat.
All right.
I'm not Gil Scott-Heron. I didn't write it, so I apologize if I don't do as good a job as him at reciting it.
Right.
But I do think this is a great piece of African American literature that's worth sharing.
And so that Facebook doesn't ban this video, we do not own the copyrights to this music, Facebook. All right, as if. All right. Let's begin.
Peace. A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bill, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still, while Whitey's on the moon. Man just upped my rent last night, because Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, because Whitey's on the moon. I was already paying $50 a week with Whitey on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. Junkies making me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up, and it's as if all that shit wasn't enough. A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, but Whitey's on the moon. Was all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon? How come there ain't no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these Dr. Bills airmail special to Whitey on the moon.
All right. And as we always snap our fingers in true Jody Summers form. Beautiful. Beautiful. I think that we've done him proud. I like to read the Solidarity Pledge. Do you have the Solidarity Pledge?
Oh, no, you can read it.
Oh, okay. All right. Man, that's high praise.
Yeah.
So repeat after me. I, your name,
Ruth,
Julian Mack,
pledge to strive.
Pledge to strive.
To love my brothers and my sisters.
To love my brothers and my sisters.
As I love myself.
As I love myself.
I, your name,
Ruth,
Mr. Mack,
pledge to strive.
pledge to strive.
To study.
To study.
To improve myself.
To improve myself.
Spiritually. Mentally. Morally. And physically. For the benefit of myself. My family. And my people. I, your name,
Ruth,
Mack,
pledge to strive. To be a part of the solution. The process. And not the problem. I, your name,
Ruth,
Julian Mack,
pledge to strive. To give all that I can spare. Of my time. My strength. And energy. To achieve. The above said. And now give yourselves a hand. We did it. CSRN Video Minutes, our weekly podcast. And as always, Julian and Ruth, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And Black lives can't matter
until all Black lives matter.
Justice or else.
Peace.